Well, hello, I am Annette from itsAdelight.com, and today what I want to show you is how to make apple pie filling. A wonderful, sweet, delicious homemade apple pie filling. We're going to can this up in the water bath canner, and I'm going to tell you guys that making pie filling, I love to make peach, I love to make cherry, you can make blueberry, I've made a wild berry. Pie filling is easier than making jam because we don't need any frozen test plate. We don't need to test the gel stage. It is super easy. Can't go wrong. You can serve it so many ways on waffles, on pancakes, in crepes, turnovers, French toast, in cottage cheese, on oatmeal. Yes, we love to have it all kinds of ways in the winter. It's just a good treat. And another reason why I love to can pie filling, because like I said, I can peach and cherry too, is because there's no dye, there's no chemicals. Peach has yellow dye, red dye in it. Cherry filling has all kinds of preservatives and dye in it. This is so easy. It's apple season right now, so let's can up some apple pie filling that you can use all winter long. Your family is gonna love this, okay? So I'm first just going to go through the supplies. Of course, what I have out is my recipe, which is in my canning notebook. This is just a plain old ring binder. This thing is older than the hills. I've had it for at least 30 years. All my notes are in here. My recipe is in here. And I would encourage you to start one of these if you haven't. You've probably heard me talk about my canning notebook because over the years, you only do this once a year. So by next fall, I forget, what day did I buy the apples? Was it September 25th? Was it October 1st this year? It was late. How many did I buy? And what did I pay for these apples? Did I pay $10 a bushel, $25 a bushel? And even more importantly, what variety apple did I use? Are they Honeycrisp? Are they John Gold? Whatever you did for that year, how many jars you canned up, how many jars did you use? Put that all down on in your canning notebook under apples so that you can go back and reference that next year, okay? That's gonna be super handy for you. Now, the only other thing that we need for canning pie filling is we need our thickener, which has got to be a canning safe approved thickener. And so I'm using Cornbys thick gel, not the instant gel. I'm using the yellow bag. And of course I just keep mine in a jar because I keep everything in a canning jar, and it just has a storage lid on it. Has a label, my little tape tab label, and it tells me the date that I put it in here so I can keep track of that. So Cornbys, it's the yellow bag, like I say. Look at the end down below. I'll put a link so you can see exactly what it looks like. No, I'm not affiliated with this right now. It's just the best product that I've found to use. You can use Permaflow and other canning safe ones, but you can't use cornstarch. That's not safe for canning. And the reason why, one of the reasons why anyways, that it's not safe for canning is because it can't handle the high heat processing. So it will thin down, and you will end up with no thickened apple pie filling. It will just thin down and be kind of like syrup. So you don't want to go through the work and then have that turn out. The only other thing we need is some apple juice, and you can use water. I like to use apple juice or fruit juice. If I'm doing cherry, I might use a cherry juice. If I'm using peach, I might use a peach juice instead of my water for my fillings because I just think it makes it taste richer, and then I don't need as much sugar because it's going to be kind of low sugar. We got a couple cups of sugar here. We're gonna have a little bit of cinnamon, and that's what this is. My cinnamon's measured out, and that's all we need for this, okay? So I'm also gonna put a little bit of lemon juice on my apples, and we do need that lemon juice in this mixture because that also is what keeps it safe for the water bath, okay? And keeps my acids levels right. So I'll show you that, and I'll put that out. I'll add that to my apples too when you see me. So my canner, my water bath canner is going. I have it filled up. My jars are washed, and it's just on low because this process isn't gonna take us very long. And my lids and my rings are ready also in the pan, or I should say they're in the pan. They're both heating up on low so that by the time this is ready, we will just be ready to roll and go right on with it, okay? So let's just dive right in, and we're gonna get started making this apple pie filling. Okay, so I have my apple peeler here. This is what I use to make apple pie filling. This is all I use. And I am using Honeycrisp apples today. So I do also love to use Jana Gold. And there's other apples too. I would say this, whatever your favorite apple is, use that. You will like it. Or good baking apple that you like, use that. Not an apple that's too soft. So all I do, run it through the peeler. I love my apple peeler, you guys. And just go down each side. You have slices. And I'm actually gonna cut it into fourths. Okay, so that half is into one and this half is into one. If you get a little piece of the skin, you can decide, either leave it out, you can eat that, or you can add it in here. That's all there is. We need 12 cups of apples. So this is all I'm gonna do, is run these things through the peeler until I have 12 cups. Okay, so I want to just say, as I am peeling my apples, we need this apple juice, we need this lemon juice in our canning recipe, okay? But I pour it over my apples instead while I'm doing this. So I have half of my apples peeled. I'm just gonna pour that on them. And it's only 2 tablespoons. So it's not like I'm soaking them, but I just figure I might as well put it on them now. I don't treat my apples. And if there's, a little skin or something you see on there, just pick that out. But I just do that apple juice. I'm gonna keep going, get the rest of my 12 cups peeled, okay? And also, I always peel some extra. A good, I would say 2 or 3 cups extra of apples, because when you get to the bottom of the pan of pie filling, sometimes your jars are all full, sometimes they're not quite full, and what will happen is you'll have a little bit more pie filling than you do the apples, depending on how well and evenly you were filling your jars. You'll see that, I'll show you that. So it's so handy just to have a few more apples already ready and cut, and you can just drop them in the bottom of that pie filling, stir it into that hot stuff, and you can either save that because it'll be great in the refrigerator if all your jars are full, or just add that to another jar to make the rest of your kettle full. But this should be a pretty good 9 pint recipe, but you always got to just give for a little bit of leeway, okay? So I'm going to finish up getting these apples peeled, but my lemon juice is on them now, okay? Okay, so I've got a nice sized stainless steel pan, kettle, whatever you want to say. It's my favorite kettle to use for this. And now all we do is mix this up, and this is going to go quick and easy. So first of all, we don't put our apples in here. We're going to put those in once I get this hot and on the stove. We're going to start right out by adding our apple juice. And what I have for apple juice is I have 9 cups of apple juice. Any apple juice, this is just a plain old organic apple juice, like a store brand, okay? So I've got my apple juice in here. Next, I'm going to put my sugar in here, which is 3 cups. This is just a plain old white cane organic sugar from Costco, no big deal. And I forgot to bring my spoon or my whisk. You could kind of be stirring this. Typically, see, I would do this on the stove, but it doesn't matter. We can just mix it up right here and it's perfectly fine. We'll take it to the stove and heat it up. So next I'm gonna have cinnamon, which is 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And my recipe, again, look below. I'll give you a link so that you can get my full recipe, okay? So we're just gonna put the cinnamon in here. And a little word about the cinnamon, this isn't going to be really cinnamony. If you want it to be cinnamony, you're going to have to at least double the cinnamon. And you'll see also in my recipe, I write down that you can, I have an amount here. Let me see what it is. It's cinnamon with some apple pie spice or some cloves, a little extra mixture if you really want it cinnamony. This is just a nice appley flavor, okay? So that's it on the cinnamon. And then next is going to be my thickener, which is my Cornbys thick gel. And we're just gonna whisk this all in, take to the stove, and we're gonna heat it up, okay? Okay, so I would just have this all on the stove, and I am just going to start whisking. And you can see, I'm just gonna whisk this thickener right in here, and my cinnamon, my sugar, I can just feel that in the bottom. We're just gonna get that all whisked. I've got it on a medium high, and then I'll go right over and I'll use my spatula. That really helps me to feel it well. And if you, my pot's sitting a little crooked so it's making a little noise. If you whisk your thickener in right away, mine was actually sitting while I brought it to the stove, you won't have any lumps at all. So I'm gonna really give mine a little bit of a whisk here, okay? And that's it, we're gonna heat this up for about 4 to 6 minutes, just until it gets all bubbly and nice and thick. Then we're gonna pour our apples into it and I'll show it to you then. Okay, so I want this to boil. It's just starting to boil. Now I'm keeping it so that it's not burning on the bottom. I'm actually gonna turn my heat down a little bit, but I just wanna bring this to a nice boil. I guess I should say barely boiling, like this. And it is ready for me to dump my apples in. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna dump my apples in this nice hot filling. And we're gonna stir these in. We don't have to cook these down or anything like that. We're just gonna stir them in and get them hot and steamy. And then they are ready to can up. So let's just stir these in, get this all hot. So this looks good even to how many apples I have compared to the bit of filling, and that is to your liking. You could go a few less, you could go a few more. I think that this is perfect, and it just feels good, and it's looking good, and it is basically nice and steamy and hot now. So we're gonna take this to the counter, and we're gonna can this in the jar. We're gonna fill our jars. Okay, so I have myself set up here. I've got my lids right here, my tongs, so I can take my lids out. My canner is here with me, is here on the counter with me. I don't typically put my canner on the counter, but I have it here just so you can see what's going on. Typically it'd be right behind me on the stove, and I would take a jar out, put it right here on my towel, and I would just can up that way, put it back in the canner, okay? So you can just watch me go through the process. My pie filling is right here. We're just gonna can this stuff up. Okay, so we're just gonna take our first jar out, and my jars are filled up with water, so I dump my water back into the pan because they need more in there. I'm just gonna fill my jars with this wonderful, delicious apple pie filling. Okay, remember when I fill my jars for pie filling, I want to just be right to this rim. If I accidentally put too much, I'll grab a little soup spoon, which I forgot to bring over here with me, and I'll take a little bit out, but this looks absolutely perfect. Push down that one little apple there. I'm gonna wipe my rim off. I have a little bit of water here in case if my rag gets a little dry, and it's the top of that rim I'm wiping off. I don't want any sticking on the top of that rim. That's where my main concern is. I'm gonna take out my lid and my ring. I'm gonna put this on. My jar is hot, so I have my towel here. Just finger tight, not wrenched, okay? That's it. And that's jar number 1 of delicious apple pie filling. Okay, so at this point, I can see I have quite a bit of extra sauciness. I want to be sure each jar gets plenty of apples. I like mine probably a little bit more on the apple side. Actually, I think, yep, that's jar's nicely full. So I am going to be throwing in some of my extra apples here in just a second. Let's wipe this rim. Let's put a lid on it a minute. And this is pretty common when you're canning pie filling. That's why you always just want a little bit of extra fruit ready. And some people might not mind, if you want less fruit, I like probably extra fruit. So you can just see this. See, I have a lot of extra, what I would call the pie filling, if you can tell that, and not as many apples in there. So we're just gonna add a few in here. I'm gonna stir them around. This is still good and hot. I'm not concerned about it not being hot enough. My jars are very hot. But just a few more. That looks better to me, okay? And we'll just finish up. Okay, so now I have it on the stove. It's on high. Like I say, I would have just left it here, but I'm putting it back on here because I had it on the counter so you guys could see. I'm gonna bring this to a boil. I have my water a couple inches above my jars. I'm gonna put the lid on, and when this starts to boil, that's when I'll start my timer. I'm gonna water bath these pints for 25 minutes. And could you do this in jam jars? Yes. I was just with the daughter this week and we canned up a bunch more in just small little jam jars so they could just use it for pancake topping and just be able to use it a little bit when they wanted to, and not a full jar for a cobbler or turnovers or anything like that. Sorry, I put an apple in my mouth. It was delicious. So, all right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let this process for 25 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll take the jars out, okay? But we can't start that time until it's already boiling. Okay, so our timer has gone off, and I'm just gonna take the lid off. And I turned my burner off already. I kind of been letting it sit for a minute and just let the steam get out for a minute. I just take the jars out, that's all it is. I tip them just a little bit so the water goes off of the lid. I'm going to put them on my towel over here. Oops, get this out of the way. And we're going to let these jars sit here overnight on the towel with the rings on. And we're going to leave them here for 24 hours, good 24 hours or a little bit longer, okay? And Then you can take the rings off after the 24 hours. Check the seals. You should have heard them pinging and popping. Kind of surprised we haven't heard one yet, but we probably will before we're done. And I will just use a permanent marker. I'll write the date on there. And then pie filling is ready to enjoy. And that's all there is to canning up this wonderful pie filling, you guys. So I hope you love it. Click below to see more the resources and the recipe. And I hope to see you in the next video. If you really like this, please subscribe so you get a lot more. All right, we'll see you in the next video.